UFC Fight Night, DeRitter versus Allen, just took place. I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events. This was a pretty good card overall. I really enjoyed watching the fights. They were pretty exciting. Early prelims had some bangers. Main event also had some bangers. So really great card overall, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more of this stuff, obviously. I feel like the UFC has been on a really good roll lately as far as the quality of the events that have been coming out. So whatever they're doing, I hope they keep it up. And we'll go through the card. So starting with first fight of the night, Melissa Croden versus Tainara Lisboa. Croden had a little difficulty first round. It was able to turn it around in the second, and then in the third, get that third round KO with strikes. I think Tainara went down to the ground and then ground and pound finished her off. Really fun fight, especially for the female fighters. That's the other thing I've noticed a lot lately is that the women's divisions are definitely starting to ramp up. I think we're starting to see the beginning of like new talent starting to come in, at least in the women's divisions, There's even a few fighters now, like the female fighter, her last name is also Edwards. She's really exciting, seems to have really good power, is knocking people out. But yeah, women's division seems to be on the rise, so looking forward to that. Hope that keeps happening. Moving up, we had Bikoev versus Belguri. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's from the Netherlands. Who cares? Bikoev, I think, was kind of the favorite to come in for this fight. I don't remember. But man, he was not the same size as Belguri. Like, it was a noticeable size difference and a reach difference too, which was insane. He came in swinging. I was surprised he didn't wrestle as much as I thought he would. And now I don't know if that's just because of the level of his skill, which I don't really think it is. I think Belguri came in with a great game plan to nullify Bikoev because, like I said, they had a huge height difference, huge reach difference. Belguri had that jab that he was sticking out all night and keeping Bikoev on the outside. Bikoev started getting a little bit desperate and started becoming a little bit more reckless, trying to throw some overhand rights, which he did land against Belguri. But credit to Belguri, he kept it calm, kept patient, kept himself composed, kept on landing those shots consistently, and then eventually it led to the KO in round 3. Great fight. Sucks for Bikoev, but looking forward to see how Belguri moves up in the division. Moving on next, we've got Stephanie Luciano versus Ravina Oliveira. I don't remember too much of this fight, to be totally honest. I know it was pretty good. Unfortunately, Ravina Oliveira getting subbed in the last couple minutes of the fight. But like I said, I think the women's division is on the rise. There's some real talent as they come through, so looking forward to see more of Stephanie Luciano. Danny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. Now, this is the first decision of the night. Bit controversial, kind of, not really. Danny Barlow having success in the beginning. I think he even knocked down Jordan in the first round. I'll have to look back at that. But knocked him down in the first round, had some success. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep it up. Allowed Santos to start doing some work, and eventually led him to come back into the fight and get that decision. Kind of sad, but I think we're kind of seeing this a lot with certain fighters, especially American fighters. It seems to be a real issue. We had the same issue with whoever Figueiredo just fought in the last card, where he was just waiting for those 1 to 2 shots and hoping that would win him the round, and it was just a little bit too patient to get that W, especially in Brazil, So Danny Barlow landed some good shots. He's got heavy hands. Unfortunately allowed Santos to come back and work and eventually get the W. So great win for Jordan Santos. I think it's a bit controversial if I'm remembering right. So we'll see what happens. I thought it was a fun fight. it was a very fun fight. Unfortunately, I think Danny Barlow just didn't do enough. Started getting a little bit gassed at the end. Jordan Santos was doing a lot of that weird head movement stuff. Kind of similar to how Yuri was doing all that head bobbing and weaving against Khalil. So, great win for Jordan Santos. Looking forward to see where he goes next. Moving up, Bruno Silva versus Hyung Sung Park. Now, I think we're starting to realize that the Korean prospects, they can't hang. If you're a fan of the Contender Series, you would have seen this last card. There was a Korean prospect touted to be pretty good. He was a heavy favorite on that fight, if I remember correctly. Talking a lot of trash against his opponent, and ended up getting spinning elbow knocked out in the third round after fighting hard for 2 rounds. And Hyung Sung Park, Bruno Silva is kind of like, I get he's a veteran, he's a crafty vet, but I don't think people were really expecting him to win, and he just kind of came out there, held his own, not dominated, but he got the ground game, which Hyung Sung Park did get submitted his last fight too. So, but came in, showed his level on the ground, and then submitted him. Sucks for Hyung Sung Park, but I think he kind of needs to know after 2 back-to-backs of getting subbed in his fights, in his losses. I think he really needs to go back to the drawing board. And really needs to work on that ground game, because it's just not on the level that it needs to be in the UFC, And I think these fighters are starting to realize that, So, moving up, Cody Gibson versus Aori Kilang. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but hey, he's Mongolian murderer, I think is his moniker, which is awesome. Insane. Just caught Gibson while Gibson was trying to come in and land a kick, caught him flush on the chin, and then a few punches on the ground, finished the fight. Ref had to step in. Insane. The odds are right here. Shoot. He was not the favorite. Underdog. A lot of underdog wins this card. He was not the favorite. And he just, I wouldn't say it's a lucky shot, because it was placed perfectly. I think he knew that Cody Gibson was going to throw that kick, and he just timed it perfectly, landed flush on the chin. Cody Gibson is wobbled, and then of course, refs got to step in, and that's the fight. Great win for Aori Kilang. Looking forward to see if he can bring a little bit of more excitement as he moves up. I'd like to see him fight again and see if what his actual skill level is. So, looking forward to that. Up the card, Kyle Prepolek versus Drew Dober. Now, Drew Dober was the favorite, but man, he was getting pieced up by Prepolek. Now, Prepolek, I think, was just recently signed, and he just fought Benoit Saint Denis on his debut. I think that's his debut, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that's right. So, he kind of really showed his level, He pieced up Drew Dober. Was piecing him up for, 2.5 rounds until Drew Dober landed a vicious nut shot on him in the last final round, Ref took a point. Prepolek was still visibly hurt, from that nut shot. And then unfortunately just couldn't. It's like the ref took a point from Dober for that, and it was the only foul, I think, in their fight, And the ref took a point, which I think I kind of agree with, because to me it seemed like Drew Dober needed something. He needed that break, because after Prepolek took about 3-4 minutes, Drew Dober came in there swinging, because he knew he was down 2 rounds with a point deduction, and he needed to get that win. Or he needed to get that knockout to win. So he came out, really put the beating on Prepolek after Prepolek is not moving so well because he had just been kicked in the groin. It's a sucky situation, and I really don't like it. I I don't know. I just there's not really a way to like, because then you're looked down upon because if you tap out from a groin shot, you know, because other fighters don't. You know what I mean? Like somebody else we'll get to later in the card. And it just kind of, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of like a pretty blatant foul leading to a victory for the person who committed it. I understand accidental fouls if like they happen, I don't know, early enough into the fight and they're not severe. You know, I get it, but it's like, I think the UFC really needs to take a hard stance on like, hey, like zero tolerance for fouls, especially eye pokes. I think anybody who watches UFC knows that eye pokes are notorious for changing the way a fight is going, and they don't ever call them. You know, you can get 2 typically until the ref threatens you with a point deduction. I think I think that needs to change. Obviously, I think the refs need to say, hey, like if you're getting fouled because you're eye poking somebody, they won't happen anymore. You think a fighter's going to go out there and accidentally lose a point, you know, because they didn't have their fingers closed? I don't think so. And I don't think that a fighter's going to risk like groin shotting somebody if it's a point deduction. Like I get that it's accidental and I get that it can happen, but they're definitely not going to be like swinging a kick at the upper inside thigh, you know, because that's not going to be a shot that's beneficial to them. But who knows? I don't know really how to solve it, but it does suck because Drew Dober's foul of Prepolek directly led to him getting that break. Prepolek's not moving like he was earlier in the fight, and then he gets the win by TKO. Not a huge fan of it, but it's what happens. So, moving up, Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frivola. So, man, Nelson, awesome. Great fighter. Really was able to keep the distance with Frivola. Got some good takedowns too. Frivola took him down a couple times. Good ground defense. He seems to have some pretty good power. Pretty patient, placing his shots. He's not afraid of getting that fire. Miragliotta, my goodness. Matt Frivola was unconscious, getting his head pummeled into the mat after Kyle Nelson had knocked him out. And Miragliotta let that go on for 6 seconds until the round ended before he stepped in. Unfortunately for Nelson, I think everybody thought that the fight was over because everybody saw Matt Frivola unconscious on the ground, only to find out about 15 seconds later, oh my gosh, the corners are in. He's sitting in the stool. He has a huge adrenaline dump. Has to come back out after thinking he'd won. And I don't know what it is about fighters, but after they get rocked with a shot or something and they're allowed time to recover, some of them, not all of them obviously, and there's different fighters that have different levels of power, but after they get rocked, they get hurt, and then they come back after a break, they're unKOable. Like Matt Frivola was eating head kicks from Kyle Nelson and just tanking him after he had already been beaten unconscious. It's like he got a power nap for 6 seconds, really sucks, but still, Kyle Nelson won the fight. Happy for him. Great win. Very impressive stuff. Looking forward to see how he moves up. Dan Miragliotta giving Matt Frivola that CTE special, which never want to see, obviously, and it kind of robs Nelson of that, first round KO, But hey, right fighter, won the fight. Happy for him. Looking forward to see what he does next. Charles Jourdain, Davy Grant. Dude, Jourdain, different level, man. I mean, kind of. Very good stuff. I mean, just Davy Grant didn't have anything for him. Just nothing for him. So looking forward to see where he moves up to. Looking forward to see who his next opponent is. But man, very impressive showing from Charles Jourdain. Very impressive. Always, I know he's gonna make it a scrap each time. So looking forward to see where he ends up next, who he ends up fighting next. So Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasuda Vicious. I mean, she Yeah, yeah. She had 5 hard rounds against Shevchenko, right? Is that right? Hang on. Oh, oh, oh. I guess I should do my research before this. I think she had 5 rounds with Shevchenko, so I think she was just on a different level for Jasuda Vicious. A bit too much of a jump. Great win for her. I guess she's got to rack up another win and see where she goes from there. So let's see. Oops. All right. Vicious. Yep. Shevchenko. Yep. Blanchfield. Maybe put her against Grasso. You know, that'd be cool. But we'll see. Moving up, Marlon Vera versus Amin Zahabi. Now, I think this one was kind of a robbery. I thought Marlon Vera, the last 2 rounds, was definitely... Well, second round was definitely Zahabi's, I think. But first and third, it's difficult. First was really close. But I was really surprised. I thought Zahabi would move out on the distance a bit more. I think there's a clear way to win against Chito Vera, and it's not allowing him to be the one coming forward, allowing him to get those shots off, not fighting on the back foot. You are fighting on the back foot. You're keeping the distance. You're landing your shots. You're not letting him cut you off from, escaping the ring or like the engagement. And Amin Zahabi just, confronted him using Vera's bread and butter. Good fight. Great fight. Don't get me wrong. But I really thought, like, I've seen Amin Zahabi fight. He knows how to keep the distance, keep the striking distance up, move away, fight at range. And he just didn't do that against Marlon Vera. And I think it left the fight way too close. And when you do that, it kind of looks bad for you as you continue on in your career, because then people are going to say, man, he had a war with Chito Vera. Like, how is he going to, stack up against the other guys, Because, like, I think Vera's wins, he's his style, at least right now, is totally based on the quality of his chin and then his power. He's just going to eat your shots and then come forward, And if you're struggling against that as someone who has the ability to move around really well, how to keep the distance and you can use that to your advantage, and then you just don't. I don't know. I just think it looks bad, and I think you're going to be figured out by the top guys of the division as you continue on. I think that's one of the most frustrating things about trying to predict fights for fighters, because you'll see what they can do. They'll show you their skills. You'll make your prediction based off of what they're good at, and then they just won't do it, and then you're just sitting there watching these guys basically kind of throw away a fight. I mean, he won, good for him, but it was way too close, in my opinion, for what he has the ability to do. I feel like he could have had a shutout with that just because of his abilities and how he knows how to fight in a style I think is perfect for dealing with Vera. That's just my opinion, obviously, but whatever. He got the W, but I think a lot of people are going to think it's a robbery, so we'll see how he continues. I hope this is just him kind of trying to show his chutzpah, and just kind of show what he's about. So great win for him. Moving up, Kevin Holland versus Mike Mallet. This one is weird because, well, Drew Dober, when I understand, last round, that nut shot changes the entire outcome of the fight almost, but Kevin Holland gets hit in the groin twice by Mike Mallet, and they don't deduct Mallet any points. You know what I mean? Mallet was just too fast, just too good on the ground, and he just kicks too hard to the nuts. Because after that first round, Kevin Holland was definitely playing it up. I think anybody who watches Kevin Holland knows now his last few fights, he's really been on like the excuses train, where it's like, yeah, if I wanted to be champ, I could, but I just don't want to. Oh man, this happened and that ruined the whole fight for me. And I think he really played up these nut shots because it's his excuse for when he loses. Because, man, that first round coming out, Mike Mallet, he's fast. It really sucks that he lost to Neil Magny, But, man, I think he's going to be a problem for this division. I wouldn't run it back with Neil Magny anytime soon because he's on some generational gatekeeping run right now, Just don't know how he's doing it. He's just getting the win still. Crazy. But anyways, Mike Mallet looking fast, looking sharp, landed a couple groin shots. Kevin Holland just complained about that the whole time. And then they would start the next round, and Mallet way too fast. I mean, he did get caught coming in a couple times by Holland. I do think Holland is definitely starting to slow down, and I do think that Holland is just kind of doing this for the bag because, I mean, he's a fan favorite. I imagine his contract is pretty sweet because he is one of those guys that they can call up, and he's, down to, stand in as a backup fighter. He's willing to do the company a solid, and I think the UFC definitely appreciates that. So I imagine his contract is probably a very, very decent contract. So I think he's comfortable where he is. And I don't think he's going to really seriously make like any title runs. And I honestly think it might just be a little bit too late because Mike Mallet, he looked big, fast, solid. Got caught with a couple of hits, but I mean, solid chin on him too to take shots from Kevin Holland, So great win for Mike Mallet. Kind of sucks with the groin shots, but I think that's better for Holland's mentality because if that didn't happen and he just got shut out from Mike Mallet, I don't really know how he'd take that other than, I don't know, he just has to accept that he's not at that level anymore. These guys coming up are, so. All right, and the main event, DeRitter versus Allen. I really thought DeRitter was going to win this. And unfortunately, Brendan Allen just had to out-goofy him. We knew DeRitter is a goofy fighter and how beneficial that can be. But when you have someone like Brendan Allen, who's so skilled, he's a very well-rounded fighter, so skilled at like MMA in general, who can go out, put the beating on like Imavov. And after he's done that, after he's won like a round, he immediately decides to, throw it away. He plays to his opponent's strengths right after and then loses the fight. He's done that. I mean, I can remember at least 3 times where he's just gone in there, like looked great, looked solid against a high-level fighter, and then after that just like fell apart and just gave the win away, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. So just out-goofied Brandon DeRitter. DeRitter, I think, just gassed himself in those first 2 rounds. He got some takedowns, basically had Allen on the ground for at least a round and a half. Gets reversed in the second round. Brendan Allen is able to get a lot of work off. Third round, Brendan Allen shoots the takedown, gets him down, kind of just has him there the entire time. And then third round does that. Fourth round, much of the same. And then DeRitter just couldn't get off the stool after round 4. Just had to quit, which is unfortunate. This man just beat Whittaker. And now he's losing to the likes of Brendan Allen. Which, I never know. I don't know how to judge a win against Brendan Allen because of his tendency to throw away a victory. You know what I mean? Like, if you've watched Brendan Allen, you know what he can do, and he just ruins it for himself, So, yeah, that's all, really, Anyways, great card. Very fun card. If you are a fan of other MMA YouTubers, I'm sure you caught MMA Gurus collab with Bedtime, Lucas Tracy, MMA Che, and a couple of other streamers. Insane stream, awesome to watch, very fun stream. I hope they do more of them. Definitely sucks that they have to have all like those different platforms because, man, I'm guessing because Guru uses like TNT Sports, and then Lucas Tracy, I imagine, is probably ESPN. I don't know what Australia is Bedtime, so like the ad breaks, I guess, really threw off their stream each fight and probably in between fights too. So other than that, though, great card, great commentary by them. I wish them the best as they continue on with that success. And I do have like some opinions on what I think the UFC should be doing moving forward, especially going to a UFC Paramount platform. But I think I'll save those for another video. So until then, we'll see you guys at the next one. Have a good one.